Everyone, Blind Steve here again. Today I have a video about I guess the tier of each unit, but also I'm going to go in depth on what their role is when you're playing them. So how good a unit is while playing Spectral Spite, but also what it's actually doing in its specific niche. And I also order these in my opinion, how good they actually are. So like the more to the left you are, the better you are. So let's start with, we're gonna start with I didn't just label them S to F tier because I wanted them to actually have a description. So first we have mandatory. This is mandatory 2 to 3 squads. You're gonna be running essentially as much of these as you can as possible. The choice means you'll almost certainly be running one of these. They're a great choice. They're just not, you're always gonna be running them, but they're very high tier. The middle is fine, specific role. They're more niche. You know, the next one's called niche, but they're more niche. That means they are playable. They have specific ideologies and what they do, but you need a specific idea for them. And we'll get into them as we'll get to them. In the niche, this is very, very specific. And then I wrote local meta and teams. So like depends if your local meta, or if you have a teams, and a lot of teams instances, specific models that are notoriously not very good are a lot better in a team settings because you can play with the ability of being able to pick your matchups. You don't have to deal with the ambiguity of playing anything in the game. So these type models can be better. And they do not touch, pretty self-explanatory, do not play these models almost ever. And a Spectral Spite scenario. This is only for Spectral Spite right now. So don't like get annoyed if you see a model down here that you think is pretty cool. All right, first is the Witch. Witch is the best model in the detachment. I personally think the Witch is the best model in the army, potentially overall, which is amazing. It's 90 points or 45 points for 5 of them. If you split them with a Venom, they have fallback, advance, and charge. They have quite good melee for 9 points a model, high AP, incredibly fast, move 8 or 10 inches. They're OC2. They have grenades on every model, not just the sergeant. They do everything. They have a funny AP4 gun. Doesn't matter. They're just amazing. That's why you've seen me evolve to 60 Witch lists, because I personally think it's the best unit possible. And I just love them. I see no downsides to them. Obviously, there's downsides. Like they have a bad save. They don't really have much shooting. Their melee can be anemic than specific targets, but overall, I think they're amazing. And if Witches weren't the stat line they are and how good they are, I don't think Spectral Spite would be nearly as good. And then we have Lilith. Lilith is also relatively self-explanatory. She's just amazing. She's mandatory. You'll get run over, obviously, but she lets you punch up and she gives you the niche fight first. Fight first is how you win melee matchups if you have access to it as much as possible. And she hits incredibly hard for being incredibly cheap because she's about 85. Her ladies are 90, like 175 points for special weapons. You have to have between 20 and 24 attacks. That can be up to strength 6, can be up to AP4, can have lethal. That's an insane amount for 9-point models. And then our normal ladies, which used to be just like the crappy people you don't care about, you split them away, now can be up to strength 5, can now be up to AP3, can have lethal. And that's an incredibly damaging profile for the shit witches that you normally threw away. And then the threat value that this unit possesses is immense, because if you're on a raider, you get a 6-inch disembark with an 8 or 10-inch movement. So we'll just say your movement 10 right now. So you have a 16-inch baseline move out of a raider, and then you can advance. And if you are a succubus, we're not talking about succubus right now, but if you're a succubus, you could potentially go reroll that advance. But 16-inch movement plus an advance is up to 22 inches of baseline movement before you charge. So you can go upwards of 20, 44, 36 inches or so, which is insane. Most people, their baseline movement is faster than most units' full move plus charge distance, which makes them insane. Then we have the Venom. The Venom is MVP in this attachment. Well, in general, but I think especially in this attachment, because you really want those max amount of witches to be able to split them. So having the Venom, unlike a lot of armies where transport's kind of attacks, you're forced to bring a transport just to have your melee unit survive and do stuff. This one, I don't think it's taxed at all because I value the Venom immensely. That's why I'm taking between 4 and 6, depending on my list is at the time. It's usually min 4, upwards of 6 if I want to go full, which spam. But they got 2 decent weapons. They're the Splinter Cannons, which are poisoned heavy bolters, which are just efficient and nice. They have a melee weapon, which is better than most transports. And the splitting thing is just amazing because, you know, it's turning my 60 witches into between 12 and 10 and 12 squads of witches. Plus they have, which a lot of ways makes this army function, is the re-embark ability at the end of the fight phase. This unit's just very good at letting you stage up. And there's also one nice thing about it is that you can use it even if you don't fight. So you can just threaten YOLO charges you don't care about. You're like, all right, I'll go for 10 charge if I make it. If I make it, that's good. If I fail, that's fine, because I can scoot back up to my Venom. This Venom lets you attack angles that are very hard to do normally. So, speaking of rolls, though, if it wasn't obvious by speaking, this is very good at just doing everything. It's movement, area denial, primary denial, secondary doers, primary doers, stuff like that. Lilith is just a hammer. She's the hammer and somewhat of an anvil, because you can use her defensively with fight first. The Venom is just a Venom. He's not too much to him roll-wise. He's just there to transport models and scoop them back up. It's not very confusing what a Venom does. Like, there's not any like hidden strings attached to them. The Reavers, they are a lot more specific in roles. The Reavers are godly. They are overall one of the fastest units in the game. They're essentially the fastest unit in the game that isn't a Warp Talon. Oh, sorry, not a Warp Talon, a Warp Spider. We got see some other brain. They move between 16 and 26 inches. And it's not variable, it's just automatic. You just auto advance 8. They have decent shooting with having the 2 best melta guns in the game. The Heat Lance is the best melta in the game at strength 14, 18-inch range and assault, and melta 3. All things meltas don't normally have, and all things that make meltas from weak to very strong. They're somewhat durable. They're not very durable, but they're also very cheap. They're like 23 points a model, under 30 for 6. It's around like 23 or something. Actually, cheaper than that. Like 22 or something. Whatever, who cares about math? But their role and why they're up here is why I value them. Is because they do a lot of things. They're, like I said, like witches. They're very good at primary denial and primary benefit to you. I don't know what the word is for that. Because they're OC2. And you can move 26 inches. You can just steal primary. They're essentially the best move blockers probably in the whole game, except for kind of gargoyles maybe from Tyranids. Like I said, they move 26 inches. They're ginormous. Not ginormous, but they're very big, being 632 mils. So they're very like annoying to move around. It's like just position in front of your opponent's army. If you ever see any of my battle reports, I do this a lot on turn 1, where I just move block all their army. You might randomly kill something. They stop primary. They are the best movement thing in the game, so they're very good at doing secondaries. They have niche damage, so if you're fighting annoying things like maybe Chaos Spawn, like they're like the best Chaos Bomb killers that you have, and also they're really good at just randomly popping a Rhino. And they're very cheap, and their melee is above average, and because you know it's 4 attacks at 4/1/1 Lance. And what one of their best roles is challenge met baiters. Due to how fast they are, you can rush them at, say, an enemy tank. Now the enemy tank is very, in a lot of ways, impossible to get outside 9. Now your opponent is directly inviting a challenge met play. It's very hard to get around it. And if you were stringing out a full unit of 6 models fully 12 inches apart, or 2 inches apart, that takes up so much board presence, which each model having a 9-inch aura for challenge met, that they take up so much annoying space. And a lot of times you're not even planning on using challenge met, you're just threatening it. So they're very good at doing that. And then the succubus. Succubus in general, this isn't just the Morgana's Curse succubus. I love all succubuses. That's why I always have 3, and I've always preached 3 succubuses. Their role is just making witches more efficient. You're turning those gladiatorial weapon witches and pumping them up to the 9s. 1, the cheapest model in the army, 50 points. Immense, cheapest model and unit. 2, they have a very good leadership ability of sustained, which is essentially equivalent to +1 to hit. And you know, it's better because it combines the +1 to hit drugs. They have essentially the best CP regen, CP killer ability in the game. So there's a lot of characters in the game that have, when I kill something, you gain a CP. But the succubus ability is when my unit kills something, you gain a CP. Most are not like that, which is amazing. Her melee is really good against infantry models, and then if you have Morgana's Curse or specific drugs up, it punches up, and she's got 4 rerolls. So for 50 points, you got an insanely good weapon, an insanely good leadership ability, a pretty good day sheet ability, and then a very good pain token ability. It's very good because essentially, if your witches are matching charges, succubus is in the movement phase or the charge phase. When you use your pain token, you gain either reroll charges or reroll advances. And since you're already using a pain token in the charge phase, advanced charge of witches, you freely gain advanced charge with that. You're getting sustained hits, you're gaining CP regen, you're getting reroll charges, potentially reroll advances if you want to, a good melee weapon, all for 50 points. It's like nothing. It's like one of the stacked characters of the game. They're just so good. Like, for instance, 5 witches plus the succubus is 95 points. It's really nothing. So she's good, not because she does like she's not like super versatile in a bunch of things. She just makes the witches immensely better. Aliens. This unit is obviously what makes the attachment amazing. If Hellions weren't as good as they were, this attachment wouldn't really work. Their role is, they have 2 roles depending if 10 mans or 5 mans. 10 mans, they're the big hammer. They almost kill anything in the game with no effort, because you have 4 attacks at 5, 1, 2, sustain, lance, baseline, not baseline, you have to use a pain token. It's actually 3 attacks to strength 4 baseline, but if you don't have a pain token for your 10 man, you're kind of in a bad spot. But let's just, you know, pedantically just make it easy. We're talking about pain token version. They have 4 attacks, 5, 1, 2, lance, lethal, and sustained. You have access to lethal hits with a strat. You have access to all the drugs, and they're all buff. Hellions are the best user of every single drug because they have the best gun, which is if you have a 10 man, it's 20 shots with poison, twin linked. So if you hit on 2s, like this thing will wipe like 12 to 15 orc boys, for instance. So it hits on 2s, and wounds on 3s, full reels to wound. That's great. And then you can make them strength 6. You can make them have 5 attacks. You can make them hit on 2s. You can make them do more of them, both of those things at the same time, depending what drug you get. And so they wound, especially if you have strength 6, they wound everything in the game on 4s, unless the niche T12, which has mostly died out. There's not much T12 left in the game. It's like things that are kind of played as like Redemptors, and like sometimes you'll see like a Knight Tyrant or a Castellan. T12 has mostly died out. They wound pretty much everything in the game on 4s, 3s, or 2s. And they have between 40 and 50 attacks. They have sustained, which means essentially +1 to hit. So if you have sustained, if you get to +1 to hit up, your +1 weapon skill with your sustained, you're essentially hitting on a 0. You're getting 100% hit rate. So like I said, the 10 man is, like I said, a giant hammer, which is what the certain attachment needs. If you don't have a giant hammer, attachment just doesn't work. But they also, similar to the Reavers, are very good for taking up space with challenge event. You go up, murder something, and then you have this giant 10 man making every single model as a 9-inch aura. If you get within near me, you're gonna get fucked, so I'm gonna charge you. So they're very good for just annoying the shit out of your opponent, and they're very cheap. It's like, they're like 18 points a model or something, 17 points. They're not expensive. 5 mans are very good for being like the best skirmishers that aren't like 5-man gladiatorial weapons, because it's not expensive. This is why I have because I specifically have 25 instead of 30, because GW, it's kind of hard to deploy a 10 man and not make it be shootable in turn 1 and still do things. But the 5 man I love because I can send it out in turn 1. It can go do thing and do a secondary, moving 16 inches. It can take up space while doing the secondary, you know, moving 16, maybe advancing. It can combine with Reavers to move block. Like a lot of times I'll have a Reavers go 26, bomb something, move block his army, and then the Hellions are also in range to potentially charge. And then a lot of his army is just blocked by all the dumb units, and the 5 Hellions I don't really care about because it's like 85 points. And 5 of them punches up immensely hard with their 20 attacks of 5-1-2 sustained lance. So they're very good at like the skirmisher early game pusher unit, because you don't want to send your squishy Venoms. The Venom is technically more durable than Hellions, but like your squishy witches, your important ones, and like your succubuses and potentially some Reavers, when your 5-man Hellions that you really don't care about can go out and murder something, do a secondary. So they're very good for doing that. That's their role. And this is the Raider. I have, since playing this attachment, I've always played it with at least 1 Raider. I think 1 Raider is mandatory. For 1, it lets you keep a hammer unit. I really like having at least 1 10-man witch, because like I said, they hit insanely hard now with your character buff, whatever it is, either Lilith or Succubus. You get +1 AP, and the lethal strat, I don't know what the strat name is called. I don't know the strat names. Sorry, I don't pay attention to the names. And then whatever your drugs are, you know, strength, weapon skill, all of them, attacks. So it's very good, and it progresses out damage because it gives you a 6-inch distance bar. Because remember, that's just +6 inches to your movement, and it's not that expensive. It is 50 more points to Venom. Grand scheme, it's not that expensive, and it has a medium shooting. So its role is to like project out threat ranges. So like if you didn't have something like a Raider, it would be hard pressed for have someone like Lilith be so scary, because your opponent knows of any point of, and since a Raider is 8.5 inches wide, that means from any side of that, like either the tip to the tail, you can come out 6 and then move 10 and then advance. So from any part of the raider, you can just go 16 inches and then advance the charge, which is incredibly so much board space. It's insane. Unlike most boards, you put it into a slightly singular position, like in your DZ, and your baseline movement, like the disembark plus movement, is on every single midfield objective. So it lets Lilith be the ultimate control piece. She gets to camp in your deployment zone, being completely safe, but at the same time completely threatening your opponent. And that's not a thing most melee units can do. If most melee units are hiding your DZ, they're not in any range to interact with your opponent. But Lilith always is. This lets you do everything. It lets you project out threat range. It lets you protect your big dude. And once you send out your models, it lets you scoop up. Another good play is to scoop up your 5-mans on the ground. And then on the next turn, you can send them out with plus 6 inches of movement because you got your 6-inch disembark. And then your raider can go do things on turn 3, 4, and 5. Just like hang out in the middle, shoot a dark lance at people, charge. His melee is still very above average with D3 plus 3, 6, 1, 1. They're very good at doing that. Raiders are insane. I would never play Attachment without 1, and I'm playing 2 at the moment. That might change. We'll see this weekend as a Vetrix guard. We'll get to the Vetrix guard in a minute. All right, and these are, so that's the mandatory attachment. You're always going to run everything in this list, at least. Okay, you're not going to run 2 raiders at all times. That one's not completely mandatory, but it is mandatory, just like Lilith. You can't run 2 Liliths, but I'm running 2 raiders right now. All right, now good choices. These are great. Think of it as A tier. They are not mandatory, but they are great. Versus the Chronos. I've so far have not played a list without a Chronos. Chronos is great for multiple reasons. Besides for the Succubus, he is the cheapest unit in the army. He's 55 points. It's annoyingly durable, being T7 with a 3-up save and a feel no pain. 5 feel no pain. He's got annoying melee. Like, it's not great, but 6 attacks at wound infantry on 2s with AP is annoying for how cheap and do nothing he is. And he has an amazing aura. The aura is not as good in other attachments because the other attachments don't have the issue that Spectacles Fight has. Normally, pain tokens are, you're bouncing them around. You're like, okay, my Incubi need dev wounds. All right, they got dev wounds. I used a pain token. I killed something and gained a pain token back. Okay, my Cowboys need reroll hits and reroll wounds. I use a pain token. I killed something, got a pack. My Scourges use reroll hits. I maybe kill something. I get a pain token back. So in other detachments, you're using pain tokens in damage steps. The fight phase and the shooting phase most of the time. Others like you're not. You're using them almost exclusively, except for Hellions and Lilith, kind of, in movement phases. So you're not getting them back by killing things. You're using Witches in the charge phase, sometimes the movement phase of the Succubus, and you're using Reavers in the move phase. These are your most important pain tokens. These are where most of them are going to. Otherwise, it's just Hellions and sometimes a little bit of Lilith. So unlike other attachments, you don't have the ability to bounce back because you didn't kill anything in the movement of charge phases. He helps that immensely with the 4-up. So he's very cheap. He lets you just stand around places while being the best objective doer. Just like, he's the best dude at just sitting on objectives. And he has a really good aura. He's amazing. I have not played a list personally yet without a Chronos, but I don't... He's like in the mid between here. He's the closest between mandatory that I have, but I have written lists for people where I cut him when they have list restrictions. And you can make do, but it's the biggest quality of life you can play. Lady Malice. I have said some disparaging things around Lady Malice in the Discord a lot. A lot of you have seen that. Lady Malice is fine. She's very meta dependent. Overall, she's a fine attachment. The baseline thing why Lady Malice is good is she makes melee matchups easier. So if you're not 100% prolific in melee, like I'm quite good at doing melee, obviously it's all I play. So I can get around not having Vect. But if you're not the best melee player in the world, having a Vect and Standboy is always amazing. You're already taking enough Venoms that you could just either take her solo and hang her out with 5 Witches if you don't need the redeploy. If you aren't needing Mandrakes, you don't really need them to redeploy. So she can just hang on the Venom, be safe. Or she can just jump in later. If you're taking her with Incubi, she can, trade places with some Witches later, have some Incubi. The biggest issue with her, quote unquote, is she needs transports really to do anything because she's not a Witch unit. She has almost no synergy with the army. She has not much ability. She just has the redeploy, which doesn't really matter. It's really only good for Mandrakes. Like, it's fine. I don't really care about it that much. And she has her Vect, which is good, but that's all she has. She doesn't really have a leader ability. She gives her units sustained or lethal, which is very mid for a pain token. Like, okay, if you put her with a bunch of incubi, but incubi are not very good here, as we'll get to. But if you play against melee armies, especially against something like Vetrix, so she's very good against these melee armies, a lot of them. Things like World Eaters, to an extent, if you care about -1 damage. Things like, especially Ultramarines, you know, they have a million strats they're trying to use nearby you. It's very helpful there. Orcs, Fire on Death. Pretty much any army with Fire on Death. Any army if you are scared of something like a Fight on Death, potentially an Overwatch to an extent, and Interrupt, you should be playing Lady Malice. You set the fit in your list. It's kind of hard. I have a list with her in mind. It's 50 witches. You have to take out a Raider and 10 witches, and you get Lady Malice and another unit. It's either a Mandrakes or a Kronos or something. If you take out the 5 first, you can give her a bodyguard. So you can kind of fit her into my generic list as easy as possible. But that is her specific thing. But if you're playing against exclusively long-range guns, things like Tau and Guard, she is not good. If that is your meta, do not run her, because she's slow in comparison to the army. She moves 7. She has no movement buffs at all. She has nothing. While the rest of your army moving 16 inches. Vect is not very important in those armies. They just don't care that much. Most of them don't have defensive buffs, or they're not trying to interrupt, and they're not trying to fight on death you. So it's not very helpful. So this is a slightly meta dependent, but in the current meta at this moment as we speak, she's quite good. The Mandrakes. Mandrakes are fine. I think Mandrakes are slightly overhyped. When the book came out, people talk about, you know, you can use them for the long game, which you can. And every Mandrake game I've played, they've died early on, because I would value them doing stuff on turn 1 and 2 more important than like jerking off in the corner for 5 turns. Having loan up 18 baseline is much better than having a free up and down, because you can pay for the up and down, and their damage increase is very nice. But they kind of just, I deploy them somewhere, not where they can die in turn 1 within reason, and potentially I will send them out to go move block, or to try and kill something to block off my opponent, because I really want my rest of my army to be safe, and then they die. So like, I'm not saying they're bad, obviously they're in this category, and they're a fine choice. I'm not currently running them, because the way to get 60 witches is you have to cut either the Kronos or the Mandrakes from, say, my worlds list, and I value the Kronos slightly more. But these are just good. They're just good for actions. They're the only uppy downy unit we have. They have okay shooting and okay melee. They're obviously made of paper with a stealth and a 5 of invul save. They're slightly more durable than a witch, but they're fine. They're good. Like, I would not disparage anyone for running 1 to 2 squads, and it's very helpful. And if we become an anti-LLS meta, I would put them back in my list to hold my backfield, because I'm not going to put cap lights in. And the Scourges, I personally hate Scourges, but they are fine. They're good. They're even good. They are a pseudo uninteractive gun platform. The one issue in this attachment, like every other attachment, they're over here, because they are mandatory attachment, because they have synergy. You have buffs for them. This one, there is no buffs. You have one, which is fine. Fallback, shoot, and charge is nice for them, which is the strat. It affects any unit. But since, as we talked about the Kronos, this unit we don't have pain token economy for this unit. So it's really hard to pay for their rerolls efficiently. And most of the times I can only pay for them on like turn 3, which kind of sucks, because I hit on 4s. They are smoke food, because you smoke them and then they hit on 5s. You might have rerolls, and then they lose an AP because of cover. So like they're gonna whiff a lot of times. You like at the same time say play Haywire. Haywire has an issue where its gun is 24 inches, which means if you can shoot the Haywire, it can be overwatched. And Scourges are 26 points a model. They're the best thing in the world to Overwatch. You can get 5 Scourges for 130 points, or you can get 5 Witches for 45 points. The Overwatch value is completely out of the world. It's like essentially killing 5 Scourges is equivalent to killing 15 Witches with 1 activation. Pretty big difference there in value. But uninteractable shooting will always be good. Haywire is always nichely good. I personally don't like Haywire because it has issues, as it's either an MVP unit or actively the worst unit in your army. Like if you play against exclusively things like demons or like Raven Guard, things like that, or have no vehicles and high toughness, the Haywire is just awful. It's just 8 attacks hit on 4s and then wound on 6s. You're gonna get 1 to 2 dev wounds, maybe if you're lucky. That's it. 135 point unit. But they make transport armies a lot easier because a squad of Haywire can just blast a Rhino with little effort, even though the Rhino can stealth, as we talked about, and then you eat the people inside. It's very nice. And if you are terrified of knights, like I've said, I've explained why beating knights is easy without scourges. But if you are terrified of knights, things like that, and vehicle spamming armies, like you really don't want to deal with it, put scourges in your list. They'll help you. Their role is to be uninteractable shooting. That's quite good at killing tanks if you bring Haywire. You just have to be careful of the Haywire because the 24-inch ranges. All right, and then fine. So this is, fine. These are good units, mostly. They fill a specific role. Like for instance, Drazar, his role is if you feel you're missing a kind of a hammery type unit and you don't have a lot to invest in, Drazar is perfect. When he's 85 points, so he's cheaper than Malice by a good chunk. 2, none of his abilities on his sheet require him to lead, and thus none of the Incubi ability doesn't buff him at all, because they give dev wounds and they can give +1 hit. So Drazar loses nothing for being solo. And if you're taking more witches, you have venoms with only 5 witches inside, no succubuses, so you have room to shove them in. So he fits perfectly in that little niche. And so he can go in with +1 to wound, he can get reroll hits, maybe reroll wounds, and got his little pile in 6-inch consolidate thing. When the pile and consolidate 6 is very nice, it can let you scoot back into a venom. Do remember though, with a venom, you can't go back inside if anyone's inside. They did change that with the for a fact, so if you keep your 5 witches out, jump him out to fight something, he can't go back inside. You have to bring the witches out too. And he can go punch something. We are in him right now, he's kind of not great in the current meta. You would have to bring Incubi with him to make him do anything because he's AP 2, and we are in the boogeyman meta of Vectrix Guard, and him charging into Vectrix Guard with essentially an AP 1 weapon because he can AOC it, and then -1 to wound, so counteracts his paid for +1 to wound. He's just wounding on 3s. He's not going to kill one, then he's going to die. But like I said, so too long didn't read. If you want that specific thing of a relatively cheap hammer character who can just hang out by himself, he's perfect for that job. But that job requires a roll. Incubi. Incubi are the same thing with Drazar, but more specific. Incubi on the surface are kind of shit. Overall, we'll just compare them directly to Hellions. They have one less. They have half the wounds. They have half the wounds. These are 5 points more, by the way. So they're 1 point more per auto. They have half the wounds. They have 1 less toughness. They don't have a gun. Hellions also have a really good gun. They have half the movement. They are benefits for them. They're infantry, which kind of gets negated by having half the movement, and they got a better armor save, a 3 up instead of a 5 up or up. And then melee, they have 1 less attack. They don't have lance. They don't have sustained. They have +1 AP. They're pretty much almost worse in everything, and they don't have reactive move, which I didn't bring up. I'll bring that up after the Incubi. Is they don't have a reactive move either, which is really good for them. So overall, if you just compare them directly to Hellions, they're crap. And that's not even counting how the Hellions get all the attachment bonuses. These guys get nothing. But one thing I'll say is they make Malice from an annoying 100-point not lone op who can die very easily and is very hard to protect to actually a somewhat threatening unit. Because you can do nice things. You can have your Malice projecting at her bubble with her 5 little friends, and they're relatively small, so easy to hide. And then you can have your fight first succubus or your Lilith nearby, so no matter what, they can't interact with Malice. Either way, they try to get to Malice, you can either challenge met them, or they charge into Malice, and you can heroic anyways, and Lilith, the fight first succubus, can eat them for breakfast. And at the same time, Malice can also heroic in, doing the same thing. Lilith goes in, kills most of the squad, and then Malice finishes them off with heroic intervention. But that's really the only time you should play Incubi. Is really if you really want a bodyguard for Malice. That's it. Otherwise, they're not very good. Taluses. We'll get on Taluses now. Taluses are quite interesting because there's 2 things that make them interesting. One, they have very good anti-tank shooting. In most ways, their direct to Taluses is better at killing tanks than 4 Scourges because it's the same amount of shots. 4 shots. Sorry, they don't have the same amount of shots. Let me reiterate, but they're a lot more reliable because they hit on 3s and they have twin linked. So they have half the shots. You will not on average, but you will more consistently do damage to vehicles. You won't just whiff because you have twin linked, and it's nice. They're slightly durable. Oh, I guess the most durable thing in the army, but they're annoyingly durable, so they can stand on objectives. Nothing in this army can live and stand on objective. You're relying on challenge mets to hold objectives very well, which is very easy to do, I'll say. And the one thing that makes them the most nichely good is their anti-melee presence, because they have the 2-up fight on death with 5 attacks at twin linked at high strength damage 2. It's very annoying to deal with them because they have 10 attacks with twin linked 2-up fight on death. They will kill things that your opponent just wasn't able to deal with. So they're very nice for, you know, shooting transports. You know, like 2 of them will most certainly kill Rhino in most instances. And then the guys are threatening with their OC. They're threatening heroic and then fight on death, stuff like that. So if you need that role of anti-melee presence with some pretty good can opening tank damage, potentially you should play them. I would say they're directly Scourges. Do you play Scourges or Taluses? Because they're similar prices. Taluses are more expensive and they do similar things. And you want, when you're playing the statue, you want the least amount of non-witch units as possible. You want the least amount if you can help it. So that's that. These are directly in comparison, competition to each other. So you got to make that choice yourself, which you value more. OC, multifaceted damage, and nice protection versus uninteractable shooting. Niche. When I mean niche, I mean quite niche. These are very, like I said, only for local metas and team identities. So first is the Archon. I think this guy kind of sucks. His damage after you actually play with it is kind of bad. Strength 4 with like a medium amount of attacks. He's like strength 4 with 5 attacks, maybe up to 6 attacks at damage 3. It's not very good. It's just not. It requires him to have reroll hits from himself and probably reroll wounds from these guys, which also requires your opponent to be on objective to actually do any efficient damage. His anti-leadership ability, because he has at the beginning phase you can unmatch like someone, is fine. It's like whatever. You can't like rely on it. And then the free strat is what everyone likes about him. Free strat is fine. It's less fine in this detachment because there's only 2 strats he can use besides the generic strats, which are lethal hits in melee. If he charges, doesn't give the AP because he's not a witch, which is not very good because this melee from Cabalites is non-existent. They have 1 power sword. 1 bad power sword because strength 3. I mean 5 at 3 attacks versus 5 attacks from a witch. And they're more expensive. These things are like almost 12 points a model. And the fallback shoot charge strat, which will never come up because like Archon plus 5 Cabalites is never living in melee unless a Rhino touches them. So his strats for the attachment are pretty much useless. So all he is there to do is free heroic and free grenade. It's fine. The biggest issue is how immensely expensive this is. You're paying 150 points to tank Cabalites. You're paying 80 points for an Archon, and then you have to buy a Venom for them. So this is like more than 250 points to get a free grenade, a mid melee weapon, and some pretty not great guns. But the benefit is if you're already taking Cabalites, you want sticky. So like you are terrified of anti-LOS, you terrified of teleporting guns, and you want sticky, and you don't want to take Mandrakes because, you know, at least Mandrakes can die to teleporting guns, unlike Cabalite sticky. You can do this. I would recommend not doing that because this is insanely expensive. This guy costs as much as 10 witches almost, and like almost double the price of a succubus. And I think he's like 5 less points than Jazzar. Please just take Jazzar instead. If you really want the free grenade and you are already hard pressed on Cabalites, there you go. Cabalites, they are only useful for sticky. On the surface, they're actually just a bad data sheet. 115 points is insane for what you get. They're just a 4-up save cultist. Their guns are whatever. You get a bunch of BS4 heavy weapons that you essentially get for free. Like a Venom gets 2 of these guys' guns, and then it's on 3s. And you're not even taking the Venom for guns. So you get a Dark Lance, a Splinter Cannon, a very bad Flamer because AP 0. Might be AP 1. Sorry, I don't know. Whatever the Shredder is. And then a Blaster. Blaster is just a Melta gun that doesn't have Melta. It has +1 damage at all times. Like, fine. But since you're paying 115 points for 4 bad guns, a shitty power sword that has essentially a useless ability Their ability is to give them, they sticky, and then their paint token ability is to give them reroll wounds against targets on objectives. The damage they give is so useless. It's only there to buff a character. So I would very much steer clear of them, because for 115 points, you're buying a whole cavalry sticky, or you're already spending 45 points on witches that you're splitting, and the witches can just AFK in the background. So for coming close to a third the price, you have a unit that can sit on the backfield and do it anyways, and then can later in the game rush out with between 8 and 16 inches of movement, depending if you just roll move 8, or you go 10, or you go 10 plus 6 advance and go do stuff. So this is multifaceted. This is nothing but AFK. So like I said, I told you the one role this unit has, but I would steer clear of them if I can. And then a Ravager. There's very little positive to say about a Ravager. It's made of paper. It's T9 with the 4-up save. Its shooting is okay. It's here because it's the only thing that supplies the shooting you want, that type of shooting. But you can get Dark Lances anywhere else, like here. But you can't get mass around a Disintegrator cannons. Disintegrator hands are not very good right now. They're like okay. If you really want to play Ravagers, I would say go play Cartel, where they're great. But a T9 vehicle, the 4-up save, dies at just someone looks at it and it'll explode, and it shoots once. And its day shoot ability is annoying because it's be full health. But if you really want 3 Disintegrator cannons that cannot full rerolls, you can play it as a Ravager. Or at least not that expensive. They're cheaper than Scourges. They're the same price. I'm pretty sure they're the same price of these, which I would. There you go. I'd actually do this. I'd rather have a Ravager than Catapults, to be honest. I'm changing this. Ravager is the best of the niche. I'll say that. I'd rather take a Ravager than any of these, but I never will. And these are do not touch. These things just suck ass. Don't run any of these. Racks, bad. They're expensive. Their melee weapons worse than this. Their battle shock abilities or whatever. Battle shock with no modifiers does not matter. They're not good. Not in this attachment at all. They're pretty okay in Coven. The planes, awful. This thing is awful. This is the worst. This is the worst thing in the book. Actually, I changed my mind. Hand the arc on this. This thing is 1,000,000 points for mid shooting. It doesn't have real hits anymore. It costs like 240 points. It just shoots. I would rather have 2. You get 2 of these for the price of this, and this is essentially the same shooting because this guy shoots essentially 2 super Disintegrator cannons. They have a lot of shots. I don't remember. I think it's like 12 or something of like 842. But you can just have like a lot more shots here, and they're the same durability. It's just like 1 more wound, like T8 with a 4-up save at 12 wounds. It's made of paper. You have to start it off the ground because I don't think it has hover. You got to steer clear of the thing. The mind is bad because it's on a 4-up. It's very unreliable. I mean, because this guy's useless. This guy is what the Chronos Wishy was. He gives you a paint token on 4-up once per turn for like 70 points versus every time you spend a paint token, you get it back on a 4-up for cheaper. He has better melee. He has a better gun. He's way more durable, and he's cheaper. So this just literally has no niche. His aura is shit. It requires racks to do anything because it's just everyone. It's like -1 to battle shock and has to take like battle shocks when they're wounded, I think, something like that. Something that does not matter in any way unless he's with racks, because racks, make you take battle shock tests. Well, like this guy kind of wants to stand back to try and give you pain tokens every turn. So it's kind of like a unit that has 2 minds. You want to stand back, but you want to get close to pain to battle shock people. Doesn't make any sense. This guy's bad. Do not run him. This thing's awful. It's bad. What is it? The Void. I don't know. It's called plane. It's the shooty plane. Ravenwing plane. I don't know. Its guns are not very good. It's a plane that's like T7 or 8 with a 4-up save. So it's got bad shooting. It costs a lot of points. It's got a pretty bad ability. I think it slows people. And it is made of paper. So it does everything you don't want to do. And the Hand Archon, this unit is actually just the worst piece of shit ever. So we're going to compare it directly to Cabalites. You pay more for Cabalites. This thing should be cheaper. You don't have sticky. You're not OC2 baseline. Speaking of what, Mouse is OC2, by the way. That's actually niche okay. That's like that can help you. So don't forget that. Speaking of that, so they cost more than Cabalites. They have worse shooting, and you get 2 bad melee weapons in comparison. Like cute. Like you split it with you can't, and that part makes sense. You can't split them in a Venom. So like the thing that would make them kind of interesting, since you get some more melee weapons, is if you could split them in a Venom and put the melee weapons with the Archon and keep all the guns I don't know, with the Venom or with the Raider or something, or in the backfield, that'd be interesting. It'd be a nice little melee squad for him. Because he has no melee units unless you take him with Incubi. So you can pay 15 more points. You get worse guns. You lose half your guns. You get like mid melee. You have a pretty bad data sheet ability. It's you are okay. You get a 5-up invul save and OC3 on a specific objective. A 5-up install save is not saving this unit. A T3, they will just die with no effort. I'm sorry, they're made of paper. And then their pain token ability is like, okay, you get lethal hits and then precision on like non-good guns, which like doesn't do anything. The Cowboy one's better. They're pretty much worse than Cowboys in every way, and that's a unit I don't think is very good to begin with. This unit makes no sense. It has to be like unironically 100 points at most. They have to be cheaper than Cowboys. I don't know why they cost more. All right, that's my opinion how every unit is in Spectral Spite and its role and what it does. If you have any specific questions, please leave a comment or talk to me in the Discord. Like I said, talk about non-video stuff is I am doing coaching. Coaching's doing great. I'm getting a lot of interested people. We're doing a lot of one-on-one sessions. So if you're very interested in that, hit me up in the ways I've said, you know, the Discord or an email. I'll respond to you quickly and we can set up the time if you're interested in that. Otherwise, join the Discord. The Discord has a bunch of people. It's very active. If you have any questions about Spectral Site, go in there. Yeah, thank you for watching. Like I said, if you have any questions, just make a comment. Please leave a comment. Please like the video. Please share the video if you can. I would vastly appreciate that. And thank you for watching this video. You all have a good day. Sorry, I forgot to raid Shard Carbine Scourges. I think me forgetting about them is kind of telling. Yeah, they're also in Do Not Touch. They're way too expensive at 80 points for a T3 unit that's going to suicide. The +1 AP is essentially meaningless here. You can maybe get AP 2 Venoms, which is kind of cute. Yeah, there's nothing that other models in the army do better, like Reavers for 10 to 15 less points, depending if you have 3 or 6 mans. Even your Raider is better at just running out and doing stuff for about the same amount of price, let alone Witches for almost 40 points less, let alone the 10-man, which is almost the same amount of price. So yeah, to steer clear of these, they're not like the worst unit. They're probably the best of the Do Not Touch, but they're not great. But yeah. All right. Thank you for watching.